Member for Narungga has the call.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. And, I have a question for the Minister of Health. Can the Minister inform my constituents how many instances there have been of code yellow at the Wallaroo Hospital, and whether that has resulted in any instances of ambulance ramping in the last 3 months alone, and whether those statistics might finally trigger significant investment in our major hospital?
Member for Schubert.
Thank you, Mr Speaker.
Minister has the call.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. And I also thank the member for Narungga for a question that is actually about relevance to the importance of the people of South Australia. Because this is a very important subject, not only in terms of a key...
Member for Schubert is warned.
Mr Speaker, they're not interested in hearing about Wallaroo Hospital and the Liberal Party, clearly.
Order. Minister has the call.
Thank you, sir. This is a very important question, particularly in terms of that critical regional level service at Wallaroo Hospital, but also, as the member was suggesting, in terms of flow-on impacts to the broader health services as well. I have briefly made contact with the Chief Executive, Mr Roger Kirchner of the York and Northern Local Health Network, who has provided some preliminary advice, at least, that he's not aware of any code yellows being called at the Wallaroo Hospital, but I'll certainly get further checking and updating of that, and if there is additional information to provide, then I'll certainly will provide that to the member. But we do know that our regional health services, both at Wallaroo and across the board, are under pressure. We do know, in particular at Wallaroo, that we have significant workforce issues as well, and this is an issue that's been raised with me by a number of GPs in that health region where there hasn't been a close collaboration, I think it's fair to say, between the hospitals and the GPs, and that is something that I'm very eager to change because we need to work with our general practitioners who do an incredible job across regional South Australia. There is some excellent work happening in various parts of regional South Australia, and certainly the Riverland Murray Coorong local hospital network with leadership from Paul Worley running the Riverland Excellence School there is doing excellent work in terms of training up the next generation of rural generalists. But we need to do work in terms of making that across the board, and I think that there's much more work that we need to do. I know the member who's very quick to raise a whole range of issues in terms of his electorate with me, and I thank him for doing that, has also raised with me the connections between the GPs and the hospitals. There's the potential that we could improve that, and there's a willingness from GPs to work closer with the hospital, and I'm certainly following that up with the board, and we're going up, of course, next week to hold our country cabinet, because we as a government believe that we should be holding cabinet meetings in regional South Australia. We'll be holding a cabinet meeting in Port Pirie and Port Augusta, and while in Port Pirie, we'll be meeting with the board of the health network that covers the Wallaroo Hospital as well, and raising these issues with them, because the more services we can provide in your local community, the less people who have to travel to Adelaide for those services, the less pressure on the rest of the system. And we have already made significant commitments in terms of improving the regional health services, and that's why the Premier was very quick to, when we made our announcement from opposition that we would cancel the $662 million basketball stadium from the then government, that we would quarantine at least $100 million of that into regional health services. And we're now delivering that, and of course I know the member is certainly excited in terms of there will be extra additional ambulance services that will be provided in his electorate based out of Wallaroo to help address some of these issues. But of course we know that we need additional work in our hospitals to make sure that people can flow through and get the care that they need. So I'll come back if there's further information that I can provide to the member, but certainly I look forward to continuing to work with him to improve those local health services.